So to me, leadership capacity it really gets to what is your ability as a leader to create a culture of trust.
Hey, this is Anthony Kim, and I'm here to introduce my friend Karen, the superintendent of Fairbanks, Alaska. And we're here to talk about a few things. One, just to talk about building leadership capacity in your organization. She talks about things like collaboration, building relationships, and developing your own internal capacity. But I think you'll also just love the way she talks about her own meditation practice and the discipline that's required to actually build leadership within an organization like yours. So I hope you enjoy this interview, and I'll see you on the other side. What I'm interested in talking about with you today is this idea of how leadership has evolved from pre-COVID times to like the COVID times you experience and post-COVID times. And just from our interactions, I know that you're a very reflective and self-aware leader. And even in our initial interactions, I know like you put a lot of practice in your art too, just being present. And I noticed that when we first met, you actually practiced like the way you share information and collaborate with others and how you present content to audiences during when you're trying to make big changes and such. And I'm curious, how did that idea of like needing to practice and making that part of your leadership skill building approach come about?
I'll tell you what really changed me. I don't know if you've heard of Carl Ronke and Project Adventure. So he was out of New Hampshire. And so some of those collaborative team building, things that have become maybe so popular in corporate culture and, just organizational cultures in general, he was sort of the front runner who did some of those activities. Well, he had come to Alaska, to the University of Alaska Anchorage, and did high ropes courses, low ropes courses, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. I did a kind of opportunity to do a couple of workshops with him when I was in graduate school and also in college. And it changed my whole perspective on the whole idea was, yes, as a single individual, you can accomplish some things, but like if you even just collaborating with one or two or three more people, like look what you can get done. And it was these challenge course types events, right? Which, again, we're all used to and have probably done a lot of those. But so that really started shifting my thinking. And then when I became a principal of a high school is when I really put that into practice. And it was the same thing. I just realized I had such limited impact as just the principal of the building, but there was such power in if I created good process with my leadership team, we could move mountains, right? And so that's when I started putting that into practice. And so, one of my mantras with my teams now has been, ever since then, is invest in the process. I am all about the process. Over time, I've just realized if you invest time and effort and you're very intentional about creating and facilitating good process and you just step out of the way, you will get to good outcomes, right? It will serve the organization well. And then over time as superintendent, if you include in that process, again, not just your leadership team, but top, every level of the organization, some representation there, and that's legitimate. It's not just a checkbox meeting. Yeah. Legitimately, you've got people at the table helping, develop the plan. That's how you get to buy-in. That's how you move. If you can share a little bit, because I know that you have a meditation practice. I do, yeah. And as when I first learned how to meditate, you couldn't sit still for a minute, and then you slowly work your way up, and then you mentioned that you do silent meditations for days, and I was like, whoa. What I realized though is there's an inherent discipline that you have as a leader. And, not only just telling us a little bit about your meditation practice, but I'm curious, how do you build discipline in other people? So meditation a lot is, so it's building the discipline, but it's also, over time, building your own capacity. And a lot of it's, for me, is letting go. So I guess it's a discipline. The word discipline is interesting to me. I don't think about building discipline in people. I think about building capacity in people. If you can create an atmosphere where people want to do more, right? And want to go further. I think that's the piece. People talk about building leadership capacity all the time. What does that mean? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What does capacity mean? Like taking stuff off, making the bucket bigger? How do we
describe what capacity means?
So to me, leadership capacity is your ability to, function effectively in your position, sort of regardless of what you do. So it's individually, it's with your team of colleagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's your ability to lead the team that you've been tasked to lead.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of three pieces to that. So to me, leadership capacity it really gets to what is your ability as a leader to create a culture of trust,
Mm-hmm.
right? On the team that you are a member of and the team that you lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's critical. That's a foundational skill. Then how do you get to the place where you can have, in using Lencioni's terms, truly have the healthy debate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
Because again, that's a very structured experience, because you can't get to alignment, you can't get commitment, you can't get to, achievement unless, you've got sort of those two foundational pieces. So
I'm interested in this academy that you built and what that looks like. It not only is something that I think a lot of districts should consider. I totally understand why you're doing it in Fairbanks, Alaska, based off of your geography. But yeah, I think a lot of districts should build that capability. So I'm curious what that looks like. But also, if you could touch a little bit on an area that I often struggle with, describing how to help kind of managers become leaders, right? Like that, there's a big shift in how people operate from managing work to leading work, and letting go of outcomes is one of them. But helping people understand that shift is the hard part, I think.
Yeah. So first to the academy, I did some research. It came from a personal need, and it went back to when I was an assistant principal, and sort of in our district, when you first get into high school administration, specifically, you start as an assistant principal, and you always start in discipline, right? And I mean, it's just like one of the hardest jobs on the planet. I mean, just all day, you're just churning and burning student discipline, right? You never have good news for anybody. Your parents are always upset, right? You're just like, oh my God, every day, all day. And I remember thinking at the time, it's like, I need my own therapy group, right? I need to process this with somebody. So I started with, I'm going to create assistant principal meetings. And anyway, that grew into, we need to onboard our new school administrators, and B, they need time with the superintendent. So all of our first and second year principals and assistant principals are part of it. And then I tap into our more experienced principals, and I change them out each year to be mentors. So sort of when we meet, so I meet monthly with that group, and it's been anywhere from, it's usually around 15 or 20 people. So I think it's creating that safe space. So that's what the academy is a safe space.
A lot of folks are trying to develop others, and that comes up as like a competency that leaders need to have and whatnot. But I know I struggle I know what I want in leaders, but I struggle in helping people make that
the management
shift, from manager to leader, right?
I think it's a mindset, right?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
It's a mindset, and it's also management is the technical part. Management is, it's the schedule, it's the logistics, it's the technical piece of the job. Leadership really is about personal part. And I think, so it's recognizing that you have somebody that come to you. Like I can think about my executive team right now. I mean, I have some people who are, they are front runners, right? I mean, they kind of have that natural leadership team piece, but recognizing that other people do, but you have to create the environment for them to feel like they can take risks. Leadership starts to come to the surface.
Yeah.
But you genuinely have to create an environment where risk-taking is okay and failure is okay.
If you had to give one tip, one thing that leaders should kind of think about post-COVID, what would you recommend?
So I think there's so many silver linings to COVID, right? I mean, every day out of my mouth comes, oh my, that's another silver lining of COVID. We can't lose that piece, right? Whatever it is. And all kinds of areas that pops up.
Yeah.
But my next thought immediately is, okay, so how do I make sure that the adults in the system have the capacity, especially right now when everybody is so fatigued and so tired, how do I make sure that they have the capacity to keep these silver linings and basically keep the momentum going? It's a different kind of momentum,
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I was curious as you were saying that is like going back to the fact that you were, cross country skier and, whether you're a cross country runner or skier or marathoner or whatever it is, there are those points where like, depending on the length, you're just like, I don't know if I could do this, right?
Right.
And then something along the way gives you support or momentum or whatever encouragement, whether it's internal or external. And I do feel like educators and leaders are there right now where there's this kind of pivot point for some folks on whether they could get through to the next kind of water station or whatever. Thank you so much for talking with me today. I think there's some really great tips for school districts. I didn't have any idea that you guys had this academy, and I do think that a lot of districts should seriously consider building some internal capacity that way. So thank you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.